Hey everybody, it's Peter, and this is the 2024 KTM 890 Adventure R, and it is almost my favorite adventure bike, and it is almost the perfect adventure bike for me, but not quite. And in this video, what I'm going to do is go through a number of the features and detail things that other videos aren't talking about to help you decide if it's the perfect adventure bike for you. Now, if I finish this video and you still have questions or something I didn't answer, I'm filming here at McLean Sports. They give me complete access to their entire vehicle lineup, and I fully intend to come back to this vehicle again and again and again. So make sure you subscribe to this channel, because if you have questions, you can let me know in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them in the comments, but I'll also answer them in future videos. And if you're interested in the 2024 lineup of KTM or just about anything else, I'll be doing what I can to cover everything on this channel, so you have a full video database to compare from one perspective to the next and see which one's best for you. So let's get going with this review. So before we go too far, let me lay out my biases, because my biases may not agree with yours, and I don't think that'll affect sort of your view of this video, but it may affect sort of some of the things I say and how you interpret them. So to me, a true adventure bike should be very, very good to do any kind of adventure. For a lot of people, a great adventure bike is great off-road and it's sort of good on the road. For other people, it's sort of great on the road and sort of good off-road. But to me, an adventure bike should be something that you don't hesitate to take anywhere you want to go on the road with luggage, camping gear, whatever you want to do. And it should be something that you are also very confident to take off-road. And to me, it should have a certain amount of features. Now again, I could see compromising and going down on features to hit a price point, but I also don't love the idea of adding in features and getting to a super, super expensive price point. So this bike is in that sweet spot in price range. It also has the sweet spot in features, and there's a lot of things that make this bike unique that make it, again, almost my favorite adventure bike ever. So before we dig into the details of this bike and I help you kind of figure out if it's best for you, let's just start with one key factor. The 890R is not available in an 890S anymore, at least not here in Canada. So if you want a little bit lower ride height, a little bit more street-oriented bike, the 790 Adventure is going to be your bike instead of the 890. And to show you sort of what I'm talking about, let me jump on this one. I'm about 6 feet tall. I don't remember my exact inseam, but I'm proportional, so you can get a general idea of how it is. One of the things I always say when I'm reviewing motorcycles is you can't look at the seat height on a spec sheet and know if it's right for you, because seat width matters, you know, where they measure from, there's all kinds of things. But you can see a lot of ground clearance on this bike, a lot of suspension travel. That's what an adventure bike needs if you're gonna go way, way off-road, and that means that even at 6 feet, I'm kind of tippy-toeing. Now, on an adventure bike, that matters a little bit more than a street bike, because the adventure bike is not gonna have a flat floor like I'm on right now or a flat paved road all the time. Sometimes you're gonna stop where there are dips and divots and that kind of thing, and that means that you have to be aware of that ground clearance and that taller seat height. Now, to me, this is in no way intimidating, and we're gonna talk about why this is less intimidating for a tall bike than many others. You can see I'm very easily, you know, even without hands on this, balancing it very comfortable. So we're gonna talk about some design differences here, and then we're gonna dig into electronics and really key pieces that make this bike kind of unique when you put it all together, including, like I said, some things that other videos aren't mentioning. Let's start with that at the front right now. So taking a look at the front of this bike, adventure bikes are always sort of compromised bikes. And like I said, this is almost my perfect adventure bike. It may not be that way for you, but one of the things I really like about this is I come from a street riding background for the most part. And one of the things I really love is you basically have almost sport bike style braking in here. So you have the floating discs, lots of ventilation, you have the radial mount calipers, a lot of power here for stopping. Now, that's both good and bad. Some people say, oh, you only need one disc, that kind of thing, and that's fine. Especially you'll see that in lower priced units. But to me, I really like having a lot of braking power. But then you have these tires here. Now for me, on an adventure bike, I think you should have good off-road tires. There are a lot of adventure style bikes that have what they call 90-10 tires, 90% road, 10% off-road. These are closer to 50-50 in my point of view. You know, different people and different tire manufacturers will rate them differently for marketing purposes, but the reality is that on a bike like this, a tire is a compromise, and you probably have too much braking power for this level of tire. To me, that's okay. We'll talk about the ABS brakes in a little bit as we get going on. But one thing to remember is because every adventure bike has a compromised tire, let's take that 90-10 for an example. If you think, oh, I'm doing 90% of my driving on the road and 10% off-road, then I'll go with a 90-10 tire. I'm not that person. I'm still gonna probably do 90% of my driving on the road and 10% off-road, but where I want the traction is off-road. So for me, these are great for the road for what I need. Yes, you can't push them as much as a street bike, but they give you a lot more traction off-road than a lot of other adventure bikes, and that to me is where I want that extra traction. So nice compromise here. Of course, tires are always changeable. These are 21-inch standard size type things, spoked wheels, so you got a lot of strength. You can always swap that out, but it is something worth mentioning. The other kind of little details worth mentioning here is you do have the upside down forks. That gives you a lot of stiffness up top, a lot of strength down low. These are very wide circular rings. I can't remember the exact size, but they're wider than many other in the class, which is going to give you extra strength. They're also fully adjustable, which is really, really nice. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the video, but even little things. The braided steel lines here. Now on a street bike, braided steel lines give you great control, great feel. On a adventure bike, they give you one more benefit. A little bit more durability if you're running across sticks or stones or something that's gonna come up and touch that brake line. You've got a little bit more strength in there. So right off the bat, a lot of good things. Let's move back from here and talk about one really key piece to this KTM. So I led off the top with what an adventure bike should be to me. And an adventure bike should be something that can take you a long, long ways, and it should be able to go anywhere. And one of the key things that adventure bikes do, at least the good ones, is they give you a large fuel tank because you may be a long ways from a gas station. So what KTM does is unique to KTM, and they actually share that technology with Husqvarna, which is basically a lot of the same frame as this, but it is unique in that this is your fuel tank. It's down here and down there. This does a number of things for you. Obviously, as you fill it with gas, it actually lowers your center of gravity. You put more weight in the bike, it pulls that weight down here, and the mathematical center of gravity on this bike lowers. What that does is allows you to take a typical adventure bike with a very high center of gravity and lower it down to feel like a street bike. It's a huge thing that makes a very tall bike, especially a very tall bike full of fuel, feel very manageable and feel much, much lighter than it is. This bike is already significantly lighter than some of the higher priced anyways, adventure bikes, but now you've got this fuel tank down here. Now, if you're gonna put a fuel tank down here, you have to have a lot of protection. Now, this skid plate may not look like a lot of protection, but you can set the bike down on this. You can sort of drop it. Although the plastic will get scuffed, it does replace the need to put on extra crash bars down here for most people. So what you end up with is lower center of gravity. You don't have to add the weight of extra crash bars and still have that extra size down here. And it gives you a little bit of aerodynamic efficiency. It keeps your toes behind things like this, sticks and other stuff that could hit them. So it gives you a little bit of protection as well. I'm a huge fan of this. Now, of course, there is a weird cutout spot here. There's a horn that sits behind there. You could get a piece that in there. There's all sorts of what they call power part accessories to change this out. You can get heavier duty skid plates and that kind of thing. But you start from a place of protection. You start from a place of practicality. And it shows you right off the bat that KTM understands what an adventure rider needs. Lower center of gravity with lots of range, with extra protection. That's all built into this fuel tank. So we've established the fuel tank down here. Now we should talk about the engine, the 889cc engine. Of course it runs on premium fuel, but of course it also knows that you're going to be going on an adventure, and it is capable of adapting itself if you had to run it on regular fuel or lower octane fuel than what they recommend. It's got the smarts to do that, which again is a real piece of understanding your riders. Hey, sometimes you can't get that top end fuel and you've got that. On this engine, over 100 horsepower, some people say around 105 or so horsepower, lots of torque as well. It's tuned to run with a lot of power, and really that makes it a twin cylinder, parallel twin engine with a lot more power than some of its competitors, especially in its price range, and certainly puts you on par with bigger bikes. Again, feels lighter, is lighter, lots of power from the engine, so that's a real strong point in my point of view. Far more power than you need, but again, having a bike with this much horsepower allows you to do some of those highway runs that can take you to those adventurous places and off-road trails that you may want to go to. So like the engine, like the fuel tank, let's keep moving through. So in the center of your shot there, you can see the suspension, the rear shock there. This is also worth mentioning because on the 890, you have a fully adjustable rear shock. You don't have a fully adjustable rear shock on the 790. Same thing with the forks. We'll talk about fork adjustments, but if you want adjustable suspension or fully adjustable suspension, you want to go 890, not 790, because that's going to be one of the key differences between those two bikes. Other than, again, 790 makes a little bit less power, a little bit less cc's in the engine, cubic centimeter displacement in the engine. So we talk about seats, there are options on this bike, but the 890 Adventure R comes with this seat here, which is a single piece seat. That's gonna allow for a lot of movement. There is still a sort of solid dividing point right back here. You can kind of see the mark I left with a little bit of dusty hands there. So there is still a space behind your seat, but it allows you a lot of space to move. And because this isn't really a fuel tank up high, it actually pulls the seat way out forward. So where your legs touch is still soft gripping. Now what that does is allows you to stand up comfortably and grip the side of the seat instead of the side of the tank with your legs, which gives you more, more connection with the bike, especially off-road. It also allows you to move further back on the seat and even pop up and move all the way back on the seat if you wanted to on different spots. On the 790 is a two-piece seat, which gives you an option. You have options to do things like heated seats in that, but not on this particular seat. So you can upgrade to different kinds of seats. Again, heated seats, great option if you're doing a lot of touring, but it is worth noting that the seat is different here and can be swapped out for different kinds of things. But again, a lot of practicality for the type of riding you're going to be doing with standing up, gripping there, a lot of space to move, and of course, room for the passenger. Let's take a look at the rack back here. Every adventure bike should come with some sort of rack. Now this isn't a massive rack, but of course you can attach all kinds of accessories to this. You do have sort of, I'll show you on this side here, those handles on either side of there. They don't wrap around and connect. That's perfectly fine with me. One of the benefits of a bike like this is you have the option of adding hard luggage through the KTM Power Parts accessories program. And that's of course an option for you. The great thing about these adventure bikes is a lot of companies that make soft luggage also make soft luggage to exactly fit onto this rear seat, this rack and everything else. And soft luggage, of course, allows you to drop the bike and not crack your hard plastic luggage and still keep things safe. Hard luggage does give you the advantage of having it lockable, key lockable. So depending on your kind of adventure, you can fit any kind of luggage that you want on here. And to me, that's a real strong point. The other real strong point that I think a lot of people forget to talk about is a lot of these adventure bikes have a very flat from seat to rack area, and that allows you to take like a duffel bag here, just strap it on there. So even if you don't opt for all sorts of accessories, you've got a lot of space to put on luggage and keep going down the road. Before we start digging into the dash, some of the electronics, some of the hidden electronics that maybe need some explanations, before we start explaining some of those, let's just talk about the suspension really quickly. We mentioned the rear suspension is adjustable. Now, it's not uncommon to have an adjustable suspension on an adventure bike. It is something that is, again, only available, the front fork is only available with adjustments on the 890R or above. There's the 890 Rally as well, but not available, at least not adjustable like this, like you see here. I'm just trying to get my finger in the shot there, not like you see there, in the 790. So what you have here is hand adjustments instead of tool adjustments. So both the red lever on this side and the white lever on that side have the same shape to them. So you can see sort of the red one's a little clearer to see on the shot. What that means is tool-free, you can adjust your suspension while you're driving down the road, while you go from road to trail. And to me, that's a huge advantage to be able to do that. If you think about an adventure bike, you may want a certain suspension setting for on the road and a different suspension setting when you go off-road. So the ability to just flick those switches with your hands without any problems, just adjust them like that. While you're riding, while you're stopped, tool-free is a huge help. Red for rebound, white for compression, you can't really forget that, and they have numbers and stuff like that. We can show you that later. The other cool thing is if you're ever adjusting your handlebar, they actually show you where you're at. So if you want to kind of adjust it and play with it a little bit and just get it exactly right, not every motorcycle does that where you can sort of rotate that handlebar towards you or you can tilt it away, and that does give you a little bit more precise control to get these settings exactly the way you want. And again, some people are going to do that a little more often on an adventure bike than on a road bike, because if it's going to be a lot of off-road, you may want them raised up a little taller, and by tilting them up a little bit, you'll get your handlebars to curl up a little higher, but by rolling it down, you may have a better seating position and for a lot of road riding. So you can adjust those based on your ride, you can adjust them based on all kinds of things, and you can see exactly where they are. Again, so many little details that KTM thinks about to show that they understand the adventure rider. So we're about to go look at the dash and the controls. And before we do that, just while I explain what we're going to talk about here, I'll sit on the bike so you can sort of see riding position. Riding position is very good. We'll talk about that a little bit later if we need to. Let's talk about the demo mode. Demo mode is a controversial thing that KTM is doing that I don't think needs to be as controversial as it is, but let me explain what goes on. This bike, when you buy it, has basically all of the electronics available to you. Things like a quick shifter, things like cruise control. There's a number of other things, a rally mode, which we can talk about a little bit as we go further. But a lot of those things are available to you in the kilometer world for 1,500 kilometers. And then the software locks them out. That sounds controversial. So what happens is you can, when you buy the bike, you can purchase that package and have it unlocked for good, or you can unlock it after that 1,500 kilometer mark. So you get to try them out. Their marketing spin is you get to try these pieces out and see if you like them, and you can group them in packages and save, or you can just get individual ones. So let's say I want cruise control but not the quick shifter, no problem, you can get just cruise control, not the quick shifter. But if you want to package them together, cruise control, quick shifter, some other modes of that can be packaged together. So the controversy is you've paid for the bike, it's literally capable of doing all that, but then they hold it back from you. Some people feel it's that way. I think the reality is that the switches and all this doesn't cost that much. Cruise control is an electronic thing, you have an electronic throttle, so the software really doesn't cost that much. And the reality is if you were to add those things on, they would have charged you more to put the switches in later and give you the software. So when you look at adding some of these features onto other bikes, they charge you a pretty good penny. It doesn't cost that much to unlock it on this bike. And the reality is accessories on motorcycles is where the money is. So even though KTM has it already on the bike, the other manufacturers are probably overcharging you for some of those things. It is what it is. It's something you have to get your head wrapped around. To me, if you want the accessories, things like cruise control, you're gonna have to pay for it. It is what it is. I didn't make the rules, but that's what goes on with demo mode. Some of those features are available for 1,500 kilometers and then they disappear. So as I show you the dash, you're gonna see pieces on this bike that are available that technically raise the price a little bit after that 1,500 kilometers. All right, let's dig into the dash. All right, always worth pointing out that when you turn on a TFT display, they never display as clearly on camera as they do in real life. And I can tell you right now that the screen is flickering a little bit and it's kind of grayish a little bit, where in real life it is actually very black to me. So what you see here is some things that I can kill out. First of all, kill switch is pressed. There's a very clear warning system in this dash. This is one of my favorite digital dashes. It's very, very clear, easy to see, so you can kind of get rid of those things. You'll notice when the, you can scroll back in the video if you missed it, but when the warning thing was up there, the speedometer number actually just shrank. So your speedometer number is often there. There's a number of things I like about this dash. Overall presentability, it's very easy to read, it's very easy to figure out what's going on, but a lot of dashes and electronics packages don't let you change things while you're driving. So you can change it to, for instance, a rally mode. You can change it to ABS on and off, all kinds of things. There's a lot of things you can do here where you can do them while you're driving. Other manufacturers require you to stop. Some require even more than that. So let's talk about what you've got here. You can see a little bit to the side. Maybe I should move it a little closer. Yeah, let's get a little closer and we'll try to show you some more of what's in this dash. All right, a little closer there. What I want to show you is the street mode here. So first of all, you've got a number of driving modes in here. So let's just kind of go in and play with a couple of them. So there's your motorcycle overall. Actually, let's just select that for a second. You can see the ride mode, select that. You've got street chosen. So you can switch it from street mode to rain mode to off-road mode. Now what those all do, first of all, you can change them while you're riding. You still have your speedometer up there. And what those all do is allow you to customize a number of things. So for instance, this vehicle has ABS that has an off-road mode. The other thing this has is a 6-axis IMU. What that means is your traction control, your ABS, and a number of other functions can sense that motorcycle's lean angle. So I'm trying to do it on a tight screen. So lean angle, it can sense if you're wheeling, it can sense if you're stopping, and it can sense any twisting motion on any of those things. So if your rear wheel is sliding out around the corner, you can control that in, for instance, a rally mode, which is standard. In that demo mode, you have to add that extra, but that rally mode allows you 10 different levels of rear traction control. In other words, 10 different levels of letting that bike slip out. So let's kind of come down, let's put it back in the street mode here. We'll back out of there, we'll go down to traction control. So here's sort of an example here. Let's just select this, turn it on or off. So see, you can see when it's off, it kind of lets that bike slide out. Well, the IMU on this bike allows the bike to know how much it's slipping out. So in some of your modes, like a rally mode, which is available on this bike, it will allow a slip to a certain point, and there's 10 different settings in that rally mode. So if you're the kind of person that wants to steer with the rear wheel when you go off-road, which I think a lot of people will as your skills increase, you can sort of allow that traction control to slip a certain amount, but no more. And to be able to tailor that is really kind of cool. So there's a couple examples in the dash here. We can go down here to some bike info. I really, really love this display. This bike info display is something that's really helpful. You can see there's a yellow battery essentially there saying, hey, battery's a little bit low, which it is. I'm currently, showing you all this stuff without the bike running, but everything's green there. So green means the tank has the fuel it needs. You can add things like tire pressure monitors and that kind of thing. It would show green things there. So at a glance, when you see all green, no red, you know things are good. Couple down here as well, some of the trip information, and then a whole bunch of things you can set down here. So you can set, let's just go through some of these things. Whoops, let's go there, we'll select that. So there's your favorites. You can select what your buttons do, what shows up on your dash, a quick selector. So again, these buttons can all quickly take you to a certain setting. Daytime running lights, you can set that. Shift light, you can set that for different types of RPM, that kind of thing. Go through again and again and again and again. Heating functions here. So the heating can be your heated grips. Those are an option on this bike that you can get. Heated seats in the future, so you can see those. Extra functions, demo mode, we talked about that demo mode. So all of those things are very easy to navigate here. It may seem confusing in this video, but they're very simple to get through. There's a lot you can do here, and like I said, you just sort of have to trust me on this one. It's actually very easy to work through and very easy to understand. It'll take a couple minutes to get used to at first, but it's very easy to see how to work all of these controls. Now let's show you how you control these. Actually, before we go too far, one thing I want to point out is your ABS mode is already set to road. Let's just switch that drive mode for a second. And, oops, we're going the wrong way here. And we'll show you when we switch it to off-road, when we come back. Oops, we didn't switch it to off-road. Select, remember I said it's super easy? It is until you do it on a video. So we're going to select that. Oh, deactivate the kill switch first. Okay, so that's why we can't do it. So let's just show you what we're going to do. That road ABS will automatically tell you it's in off-road ABS, which disables that rear wheels ABS and keeps a limited function of front wheels ABS. Motorcycle traction control is on as well. But those things can change just with your drive mode, or you can sort of customize them out, and it's always displayed here for you. Again, much clearer display than what you're seeing, good coloring on that display. And there is some connectivity with an app here, which can allow some turn-by-turn directions as well. I still think a GPS is gonna be better, but there is ability to have some turn-by-turn directions in here, all through KTM's app. So a lot going on, a lot of stuff here that I really kind of like. Let's show you some of the controls that control all this stuff. All right, taking a look at the left side, clutch side lever over here. First thing I want to show you is all of these controls are actually backlit. Again, having trouble getting the camera to focus on them when I do that, but they are backlit. So you can see what all these controls do. This is what I was using to control the dash, super simple. You can see the cruise control switch here is standard. You can go to resume, you can go to set, you can kind of turn it on that way. Very easy to reach, very easy to control, but again, only part of your demo mode, you'll have to pay extra to keep that function on. There's a little trigger out here. When you pull it forward, it's high beam. When you leave it there, it's sort of standard, and you can flash to pass right there. LED headlight down here, signals, and horn down there. There is a hazard light or a four-way flasher on the opposite. We'll show you that throttle side in a second here. A couple other things I like. Let's just show you here. A lot of adventure bikes will give you kind of chintzy hand coverage here. Sometimes they don't wrap all the way back here, and when they do wrap back here, sometimes they're not very strong. This is pretty strong. So again, you can drop this bike, have some protection. You're not losing your clutch lever, brake lever, or anything else like that. You could get stronger ones, and certainly if you're a high, risk of dropping the bike when you're off-road, if that's the kind of off-roading you do, you could increase these, but these are still very good. And if we look up from here, let's just go wide angle here. Oh, this is you in the view, but if we go up from there, you can see the mirrors are basically inside of there. So even your standard mirrors, you're not likely to knock off. But again, a lot of people want to adjust that kind of stuff as you go. Let's show you throttle side for one quick second, and then we'll keep moving through. Throttle side, the only reason I wanted to show you this is, kind of a weird angle here, but you've got the kill switch here, you've got your hazard lights there, very easy to reach from your throttle. So again, hazard lights to me are important on an adventure bike because you're going to be taking turns that you don't know where you are or where you want to go. So being able to stop on the side of the road, throw your hazards on is a nice little feature. We were talking about GPS earlier. Let's just go full out. If you wanted a GPS on this, there's a lot of mounting points. You have round handlebars for different things. You have a USB port in the side over here beside the dash, which will allow you some power point. But there is also an accessory GPS mount that you can have up here, which would keep a second screen behind your windshield. This one has a little bit lower windshield than the 790 Adventure. And that's partly because, again, as you go more off-road, you may be leaning way forward. 790 Adventure has that big sort of opening in the middle, but goes up taller. So you can always switch windshields on this through the accessories, power parts catalog kind of thing. But just so you know, kind of like a mid-height below your helmet windshield on this one. If you want something larger, you can get that. Looking at the clutch lever here, I just want to show you that clutch lever and brake levers can be pulled out like this, and you can spin this wheel. Maybe I can get that a little closer for you. You can spin this wheel, and that will give you a little bit extra reach or a little bit less reach. One of those things that's cool about the clutch lever is when you pull that, it can also change the feel of that grab point. So it's not just for bigger or smaller hands, it can also sort of have that grab point be in a different spot for you. So being able to sort of adjust that on the fly, it's just nice, something that goes there. Of course, you don't always have to use your clutch lever if you get the quick shifter, up and down quick shifter, rev matching on the way down, quick upshift on the way up. That's available standard on that demo mode and available after that 1,500 kilometers for you. Again, you can unlock all of that from the beginning, which is just what I would do, and save ourselves the big conversation. So I started this video off by saying this is almost my favorite adventure bike. Now, the reality is it depends on what you're looking for. A lot of the pieces of this bike, simple design details like the fuel tank that drops down low that lowers the center of gravity, that matters to me because it makes it feel more like a road bike, much easier to control, especially in off-road situations. It does give me electronics like a quick shifter, like cruise control, and to me an adventure bike, it's just really nice to have those. There's a lot of adventure bikes that don't have those, especially that cruise control, which to me, if I'm gonna be out adventuring on this, I might be going a long ways and a long ways on the highway. You have enough power on this to go on the highway. In fact, you have a lot more power than a lot of other adventure bikes within a certain price class, which means you can ride all day on the highway, but also take it off-road. Why is this not my favorite adventure bike? Well, simply put, it comes down to who I am as a rider. I'm a street-biased rider, and when I want an adventure bike, something that is a little heavier like this, I probably want something that is a little bit more street-focused, but still allows me to do all the off-road stuff. And what that means is the 790, which I have yet to review yet, is probably my favorite adventure bike. A little tiny bit lower seat height on that. I wish it had adjustable suspension, but it doesn't, but it still gives me all of the electronics I showed you. A little bit taller windshield, it has a little different seat here, and that bike for me would be perfect because it's kind of like buying a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon if you're never going to go really, truly rock climbing. For me, what an adventure bike should do is take me down any road. I have a super lightweight dirt bike that I can take on the really, really, really gnarly terrain. But for an adventure bike, for me, I want to be able to take it on the road and then go down any gravel road and the odd light trail. That's what an adventure bike would be for me, and that's why the 790 Adventure is really, really, really appealing to me. And I may get one sometime. The 890 steps it up a little bit for a little bit more off-road capability, a little bit more power, and then there's the 890 Adventure with the Rally, which steps it up again and makes it even more extreme off-road, which is well beyond anything I would use it for. The reason I like this over other options, I mean, Honda's got options, Suzuki's got options, other kinds of things. Cruise control matters, tires right from the factory matter, that lower center of gravity really matters, the ability to run a non-premium fuel if you absolutely had to, all of those things make a huge difference to me as I head out and adventure in places I've never been to before and that kind of thing. So there you go. This is your review of the 890 Adventure R. If you have questions, things I didn't cover, things you just want to know, I'm not afraid to dig into the details, as you could probably tell if you've made it this far in this video. So do me a favor, if you did make it this far, hit that subscribe button. We'll have all the KTM lineup for 2024 on this channel, everyone you want to see, and we'll continue providing you more videos. And again, thanks to McLean Sports for giving me complete access to their product line. Like I said, we'll have a lot more here. Check them out if you're in New Brunswick. They've got them sitting here in March 2024. So there you go. Talk to you in the next one. Thanks for watching.